Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the introduction to Alien Metals Limited investor presentation. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply click on Q&A, type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via Investor Meet Company dashboard, and we'll notify you once they're ready for your review. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Bill Brodie-Good, CEO of Alien Metals Limited. Bill, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to giving you a heads up and a rundown on Alien Metals, where we are in June 2021 already. So welcome and thanks for your time. You will be able to find a more detailed presentation on our website. So for looking at more specific information that I might not mention during this discussion, please refer to that as well. So what I thought we'd do, usual disclaimer, and then straight into, if maybe you haven't seen this, an up-to-date corporate video gives you a bit of an outline, understanding of the company. So there you go, a bit of an overview of the company, some nice images, and just sort of a summary of where we are, where we operate, the sort of commodities we're working with. So here's a summary of the current capital structure. As you probably all know, ticker UFO, great ticker, always been very popular and one quite easy to remember. That's our current sort of capital structure. As I said, I think most significantly, 100 million pounds sterling worth of shares traded over the last 6 months, which is quite incredible and great because it adds sort of support and interest for us as a company. As you know, we have a multi-commodity project portfolio, essentially the silver projects in Elizabeth Hill in Australia, fantastic historic silver mine with excellent potential still, which we'll come on to. And with that, the Money North exploration license sort of wraps around the Elizabeth Hill mining license, which has also silver, but as significantly nickel, copper, and PGE credits and anomalies that are associated with this major money intrusion. Again, I'll talk to that a little bit later. As more recently, you've probably been following the iron ore project in the Pilbara, the Hammersley iron ore project, going really well. And again, I'll come to that. And in Mexico, the two silver projects, Los Campos and San Celso, which are still great projects, and still very excited to get those first drill holes into them. And Donovan 2, the copper gold project, again, recently come back into the fold, and I'll talk more on it. But I think what I'm trying to significantly say is that obviously these are great commodities, very strong commodities in the market at the moment. Here's a bit more of a summary of them. Silver currently running $27, $28 US an ounce. An example, when the Elizabeth Hill mine shut down in 2000, silver was running about $4 US an ounce. The growth in the last probably 6 months in value and as a commodity has been fantastic and is still strong, very strong. Again, there's more detail there about the gold silver ratio, which is coming down, which is great for silver as a commodity, both in industrial and practical uses, but also as an investor commodity. The iron ore, again, incredible growth in the last few months in terms of the demand and the value and the cost. Very close to 200, just over $200 US a ton for the high grade, sort of plus 56, 57% material, which is really the core of our focus of our work on our Hammersley projects at the moment. And as you'll see later, progressing really well. Again, long-term outlook is very strong and very positive. So again, very excited by that. So actually, let's go on straight to Hammersley. There's a lovely example of a very nice piece of banded iron formation. So if you're familiar, we have the project contains two tenements, Brockman to the west and the Hancock Ranges to the east. The majority of work we've done to date has been on the Hancock Ranges due to accessibility, no other reason. They both have great potential. We've just been able to get on the ground at Hancock, do some drilling, do some working. So here's a little summary of just a little video to show you a little bit about the processes of the drilling. I'll just chat a bit. For those familiar, you can see fantastic country. So obviously this is virgin country. So we had to put in access tracks. Cognizant of environmental issues. The second phase of drilling has actually just completed. Here you can see the rig working, meter by meter sampling. So automatically samples are collected from each meter, bagged up. So you see the calico bag on the ground behind the chap, and then he lays down a sort of the remainder of the sample. The geologist then will come along. He can then collect a sample. As you see, he's sieving out, so he can clean it, take a sample, for a geological reference. Gone really well. You can see it's quite a big machine. We're looking at possibly next phase of work, maybe using a smaller unit that is a bit more agile for, as you see, getting up and down some of these ridges and areas. So that second phase is just finished. Here you can see a summary of the first phase of work. More importantly, that was completed recently. We have announced to the market, so all this information is available. Significant intercepts, hole 48 on the Sirius extension, 103 meters at 61.8% iron ore, essentially from top to bottom, still in ore at the bottom of the hole. Fantastic, really excellent. But as importantly, you've got the other holes with it, hole 47, 73 meters at nearly 60%. The historic Volta drill holes that coincide with these sort of levels and values. So looking really good, but significantly, so there's a little summary image of Sirius extension to show where the holes are. That area, if you can see along here, is sort of the interpreted ore body that actually carries on right to, if not beyond, our boundary. But great, we're developing that really well. Second phase of drilling has sort of helped to complete our understanding, hopefully, on that. Here's a little video that explains the sort of Western Ridges targets. So you can see this is a Google Earth image with the outline of the tenement. And what we're doing there, you can see the drill holes. So maiden program was the blue holes, and then the second program, the red holes, filling in the gaps. Now this is trying to show you, and if as you turn it, you can now see in a three-dimensional way these ridges of the iron ore. The ridges are formed, the iron ore forms the ridges, which is what we sort of now understand. And they, like in a three-dimensional sort of schematic way, the red being the iron ore ridges, which are the target, obviously, of our work and our drilling. They are quite prominent on the ground, and then now, obviously, now we get a better understanding. You can see the extension of the areas. We've only worked on those small areas compared to the size of the tenement, and we believe there's great potential for a huge amount more of, especially the high-grade material on this project. So really encouraged, really going well. And again, that's more detail from the Western Ridges. 26 meters of 54% from surface, including 13 meters at 61.5%, pretty much from the top. Fantastic. And recent work is adding that information, filling in the gaps, moving forward. And we'll be looking forward to announcing that and updating the market soonest. Let's not forget, we're just talking Hancock. We've still got the Brockman tenement to work up. We're still very excited by that. We did some work before, some interpretive work. There are these historic BHP prospects that are significant as well. And we're very much looking forward to doing some maiden drilling and obviously next phase drilling when we have the required paperwork, which includes some heritage studies, really important to do, followed by the usual, POW requirements, environmental permits to then go drilling. But that adds again to the potential of this project. Still in WA, Elizabeth Hill silver project. There's that incredible nugget. 145 kilograms of pure silver, native silver. Fantastic piece. Now actually sitting in Perth Mint in Western Australia. Fantastic piece. Here, I would just like to show you again a little bit of a video, give you a taste of Elizabeth Hill. This is a historic video we found from, we think, about 1999. So here you can see the surface, the old head frame, because it was an underground only mine at the time. Quite straightforward, nothing too fancy, but there you can see one of the guys heading down. Not a large thing, but he gets down to one of the levels. We're not sure which level. Obviously, all the levels in the underground workings were significant. Looking at the mineralization, so they're just showing an example. Nice and comfortable in his shorts and t-shirt, pretty much. At least he's wearing a hard hat. Again, showing the mineralization, this calcite carbonate system with this incredible enrichment of essentially silver right through. So you can see this is sort of a span across the this drive. Wiring, cabling, ladders, XYZ, quite straightforward, quite basic. And here this chap is on good old-fashioned air leg, compressed air-driven drill. He's either drilling for prepare for blasting, or actually, drilling up the drilling the face for ore. So again, the presentation has this information a bit more plan view. You can see this is where the head frame was, went down to one of the levels, digging into the richer section of the ore body. Very exciting. We're waiting on water results from the old underground workings to hopefully be able to clear them out. Here's an old map that's sort of compiled that shows again where the deposit is, and we've got another little video to show you, which hopefully gives you a bit of a three-dimensional view on the ore body, how we've modeled it, how we see it fits together in terms of what was done, in terms of what was extracted, what we feel still remains, and potentially what the next phase of work. I'm not sure. Are we having any luck in showing this video? Oh, great, thanks. So if you see, it's a very cool. I think it's might be slightly. We're looking across. Right, we're looking down onto what is interpreted as the ore body. So the blue outline, the large blue outline, is the whole of the ore body based on the work done up to 2011. The red, which is defined as stopes, is the main underground area that, from records, is the area that was mined out based on the information we have. And the black, sort of what I call the boat on top, is what's been planned as an outline for a open pit for the surface up to about 35, 40 meters at surface open pit area. You can see what's very important here is there is, yes, some material has been mined, but there's significant amounts still there. And also, in our opinion, there's still open structures and open on strike for this deposit. These are our planned drill holes, which is rotating. So now I'm looking north. Now I'm looking from the west, looking east. So you see, we're looking at targeting the old, historically, the ore body to try and get a better handle on it, and also really to understand if there's potential for a larger envelope of mineralization around the very specific silver ore body that was defined and worked on in the past. So I hope you managed to sort of visualize that. And then, of course, recently we did a larger aeromagnetic survey and a review of the Elizabeth Hill mining lease, as well as the Money North exploration tenement with Southern Geoscience. And as you see here, this is just a large summary map to help. They came up with 20, essentially 20 priority targets. That's the mine site tucked right in the middle here, but you have numerous targets. This is all, these ones along the southern sort of end are related to the Money deposit and the Hunters platinum group element reef that has been defined here, but obviously is still very much open to working up. We have other targets all the way along, so we're really excited about this. Actually, Monday next week, boots on the ground. We've got an excavator going to be doing some excavation work, looking for repeat mineralization systems around the mine site itself. We're going to have geologists doing some reconnaissance, doing some mapping and exploring in the area, and we're keenly chasing a drill rig to be able to do some of those test holes, as you saw in the previous video. We also, obviously, we're working up, looking at the tailings. Here, I think it's a great picture, gives you again a bit of a vision of the sort of scale of the tailings. They're very neat and tidy. Obviously, our predecessors managed them well. There they are, tucked in there with a, give it scale. That's a decent sized 4x4 vehicle. So there's plenty of material there. We've done some early testing. We got over 400 grams a ton average grade. Very early metallurgy tests, over 90% recovery. So looking very interesting. We need to do some more due diligence on this, and then at the right point, if things start to stack up properly, hopefully we can move forward with some sort of a deal to then progress. And just to be clear, this is sort of to process and almost help to clean up the area, but also it'll generate some potentially revenue for exploration of the project. So sort of two birds with one stone type thing. That's just again one of the slides in the presentation. A bit more detail on the recent sampling. So then we go to Mexico, which should not be forgotten for a moment. Obviously, in the news recently, and I noticed, and I apologize in our investor video at the beginning, we need to update because obviously very recently, well, I think it was just last week, Capstone Mining pulled back from the earning agreement. It's not, it's frustrating in one way, but actually we've gained a lot of information. They did a lot of work in a very short space of time. We're very thankful to them for that. For whatever corporate reason, I think a combination of corporate and technical, they've decided that they're going to, invest their funds in other more advanced projects. This is our sort of early slide from as Capstone was starting drilling. If I go to the next slide, this is actually from Capstone, from last week. Just shows the sort of target they were looking at, a geophysical target that they were looking at. And these sort of high spots are, if you can visualize, 100 meters below surface. And these are the location of the 7 initial holes they drilled. Now, 7 holes in 7 different places with quite specific targets to pinpoint. And as we saw from their very initial results table they provided, and I think we put on the announcement last week, no, other than a reasonable but shallow significant hit in hole 1, no significant copper, nickel, silver, gold intercepts in any of the other holes. However, as I said, we at Alien, we now have that project back in the fold, 100%. We have all their information, all their data, $300,000-$400,000 worth of work that they have done that we now get back into the fold. We're already looking at it. We're reinterpreting. We have a raft of ideas. Maybe we do some geochemical work, maybe some more geophysical or reinterpretation of work already done. I'd like to possibly, I already have my own ideas on possibly a couple of drill holes as well. So we're getting on with it, and there's no real change to tactic there. Just that now it's back in the fold. As I said, this is an image of a sample taken out of this Los Alamos water well again last week by Jose Luis, our sort of exploration manager down in Zacatecas. Fantastic sample. As a geologist, I look at that and I think that's amazing. It's got malachite. You can almost see the copper. Hopefully you see this clearer than I do. On the screen, you've got some fantastic sulfides through here, quite pickled. This sample, just so you're aware, we're submitting already this and a couple of others that were with it into the laboratory to keep the momentum up. And I've actually asked for a specimen to be sent to London so I can have it on my desk or wander around with it and show people the potential. And this is great. This is really good mineralization. We now need to work out where it's coming from and of course its source, which we still believe is there's a great chance it's sitting under Donovan 2 somewhere, and we need to find it. And then, of course, there's our 2 silver projects. San Celso, again, a fantastic project. We are very frustrated by the drilling permit situation. We are working incredibly hard. Do not think we're not. We are talking to local communities, to the environmental agency, to the mining department. There were recent elections in Mexico, local sort of quite similar, I think, to what we had in the UK recently. So we feel that's positive because there's seems to be a fresh team in the municipalities that are supportive, and we're working hard to get those drilling permits to be able to push ahead with these because we still have a lot of faith in them as projects. Los Campos as well. I mean, incredible numbers, and been looking at other projects in Mexico and still struggling to find comparable projects with the sort of grades and numbers that have been defined to date. So ongoing, to be honest, as frustrated as the next person on this, doing what we can. Then there's our Greenland project that we were granted last year. With the pandemic, Greenland kindly or sensibly offered a stay for the year. So therefore, everything has sort of been postponed by a year. So even though the clock has not actually been ticking on this, they've sort of pushed it another year ahead. So that's given us a bit more of a chance to. We have had a look at the project. We've got some ideas in place. We've been talking to some people who worked on the Citroën project right there. So they've got great, first-hand information about operating in this area, some geology, everything else. So, still working in the background on that. Still there, not just sort of pushed in a drawer. That's really hopefully gives you a good taste of where we are today. Looking forward to providing more information, more results on the Hancock drilling as we start back into Elizabeth Hill. Very excited about that. Donovan too, as well. And always we're looking at other projects. People are coming to us with different projects, similar jurisdictions, other jurisdictions. So we're always seeing what will fit the alien sort of ethos and skill set to potentially add to the portfolio. So thank you for your time. I think there are some questions that came in earlier. I'll hand it back to you.
That's great, Bill. Thank you very much indeed for the presentation. And as Bill said, we have got some pre-submitted questions. And do please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while Bill takes a moment just to look at those investor questions submitted already, I'd like to remind you that a recording of the presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard on the Investor Meet Company platform. I'd also like to remind you that your feedback is important to the company, and immediately after the presentation is ended, you'll be redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. Bill, as I say, we had a number of pre-submitted questions. Perhaps we can look at some of these before we go into those live Q&A. If I may, the first one reads as follows. Now we have 57 drill results back from the Hancock range and the rig back out there re-drilling. When do you think we may have some kind of guidance regarding an MRE? And are you looking to JV if the resource is large enough and the DSO quality, and it has the DSO quality, and if it's over 100 million tons, is this a JV for the big boys like a BHP, Rio, or Brockman Mining? Sort of three questions in one there for you, Bill.
I was going to say that's three questions. Look, thanks for the question. Hopefully, I've answered a little bit as I was speaking earlier. I think we're great. We're in a position. We're really driving forward the Hancock tenement anyway. We did 57 holes. We just about finished another, I think, 35 or 40 holes to fill in the gaps, I think, as I showed. At the moment, no, we're looking at, we're being sensible, and we'd always look at opportunities and either partners or somebody who if they decide they got a very large check to give us to take over the project, that would be great. And let's not forget that when these, as I understand, these permits were originally picked up in a ballot, and at the time in the ballot where if more than one company applies for a license in Australia, it goes to ballot. That Rio, FMG, and I believe even BHP had put their name in the hat at the time of the ballot. So we know they're out there. We know they're all around us. So the size of the what we come up with an MRE, as I said, the series we're hoping to develop in the next couple of months once we get the full results from the second set of sampling, and are comfortable that Howard Baker is comfortable to do something. Then we will see what that produces and see what position we're in. But we're always open to send ideas, suggestions, partners. One has to be these days.
That's great, Bill. Thank you very much. The next question we've got here is, when do you think we'll get drill results from Capstone Donovan 2?
Thanks again for the question. We've had, as I mentioned earlier, they give us a very sort of summarized table, very small table. I've been in touch with them. We're just finalizing the handover of all the core and all the data. So any day we should have the full set of data from them, which will be the geology, the analysis, all the specifics of the drilling. and actually physically the core as well. So that'll. So I'm expecting that in the next few days.
That's great. Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Next question we've got here relates to the Mexican projects. Can I ask when and where we are with getting the licenses for the 2 Mexican projects? And if already received, when do you think drilling will commence?
Well, as I mentioned again earlier, I mean, we are doing, we're doing our utmost to get those licenses. And I soon put it this way, I still have, unfortunately, and importantly, I think we've always had the funds tucked away, ready for this drilling, the 2 maiden drilling projects on San Celso and Los Campos. They're still there. I just move them up the budget each month, but they're still there waiting. We have, with Jose Luis on the ground, he said updated quotes and availability of drill rigs, equipments. We're ready to go as soon as we have the permits. So again, I don't, as soon as we can. So, watch this space, really.
That's great. Thanks, Bill. Next question we have here is the company currently researching and costing a go-it-alone approach like Phoenix for mining the DSO? Furthermore, can Bill guarantee that there's no more placings and share dilutions will occur this year?
Okay, two quite different questions. Yeah, look, Phoenix, I think I've touched upon Phoenix before. Fantastic. They've done an incredible job. I think there's 2 others. There's Strike Resources as well. But if we just focus on Phoenix, I think they have a 7-8 million ton, excuse me if I've got that wrong, resource, DSO. They're trucking it by road over 400 kilometers. And they're doing a great job. And we absolutely are going to look at, I'm keen to look at that option because I'd like to think we're very close in terms of resource potential, the fact that it's at surface, so it's almost like free dig. We're a lot closer to a port. I mean, we're only 170, 180 kilometers by road to Port Hedland. I believe, and of course we're in the heart of iron ore country, so the infrastructure is there to, the roads are fantastic and everything else. So absolutely, we're looking at all options, as I said earlier, because there's a good chance we have that potential, and if the iron ore price stays at where it is, then even more so. On the fundraising side of things, I can't guarantee anything. I can't sit here and say 100% we're not gonna go out fundraising before the end of this year, because this is exploration. And if suddenly I get myself or we get a maiden resource at Hancock, and actually we feel it's necessary to have that extra input of cash to really push it to the next level, and I don't have that in the coffers at the moment, then maybe we will need to fundraise. So I think if we do, it'll be, we'd like to make sure it's done properly and with as many people's interests in mind to, for the right reasons to push the company in the right direction.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thanks, Bill. Please can you explain the reason Capstone are not continuing with Donovan 2? And is it a viable project for us on our own, or will it be shelved?
I think, again, I alluded to that earlier. Capstone originally informed me that from, 2 things. From a maiden drilling program, they hadn't had a significant intersection. So therefore, from a maiden drilling program, that's very important. So therefore, they were discouraged. However, they did clearly tell me they are acutely aware that they have not done an exhaustive exploration program on that property. And secondly, when I sort of tried to say, look, we've got a few ideas, are you open to working, put our ideas in the hat and see if you guys want to work through that. They sort of came back and said, well, there is also a higher level, a corporate level. I get the sense there's a desire more to go to put their funding into more advanced projects. So, they came in, and this is very important, they came in with a strong belief in the project. I don't think they're leaving thinking it's not a good project. As I've alluded to, I think it's still a great project, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and we're still very excited. And don't forget, 20 k's down the road is 100 million ton, 1% copper VMS deposit, and these things are like mushrooms. They pop up, underground mushrooms, like they appear in plume in groups. They're not isolated. So we not at all. Are we going to shelve it? Absolutely not.
Brilliant, thank you. And the final pre-submitted question we have here is: with the recent Capstone Donovan 2 news, does the board plan to refocus the strategy across all its projects? It would appear to most private investors that we should focus all efforts and resources on Hammersley and DSO before spending any resource on any other projects.
Okay, again, hopefully I've alluded to some of this already, but I think all along, I'd like to think we've always tried to spread the funding and the costing and the development on all the projects, because I've seen too many projects get shelved or put in the drawer, dust buildup. Look at San Celso and Los Campos. San Celso was a project that the company Arian Silver floated on in 2006. And, I find it quite amazing that they did some great work in 2006 and then it got put in the drawer. So at the moment we're very fortunate. We do have funding to cover Elizabeth Hill, Money North, Hammersley, the Hancock, do some more work there, which we're doing, because as well as the drilling, finishing up the drilling, there's digital terrain modeling to do. There's possibly some mine type scheduling or reviewing to do. There's all sorts to keep going in the background. But as I said, we've got funds in the coffers for maiden drilling on San Celso and Los Campos, and we have some in the background in sort of get back for Donovan 2. So we're not going to focus on one thing. We're going to keep working up all of our projects, and as they develop, maybe that'll change. But for now, I'd like to say that we're still working up all of them, because they all have, in our view, great potential.
That's brilliant, Bill. That concludes the pre-submitted questions. If I may, could I ask you just to click on that Q&A tab just on your screen there? We've had a number of questions submitted by investors during the meeting itself. If I may just ask you to read out the question, even who it's from, and just give your response where appropriate to do so, please.
Yeah, sure. Excuse me, I'm sort of having to read across, but question: when will Turner Pope update their research note on our iron ore using current iron ore prices and a reduced discount factor now that we have proved we have DSO? Good question. I think, again, we need to complete a little bit more update of recent results. And hopefully, as I say, now that, because we've sort of been in the throes of the second phase of drilling. So let's, I would say, probably pertinent to await the results of that. And as I said, we are doing some other things in the background. And then potentially they can update their note based on a full set of data, because probably for the Hancock anyway, that at the moment will be a sort of, that'll be the end of a drilling phase for maybe a couple of months or 3 months. I do want to do some ground survey work, some more mapping on the ground to test out those other ridges that we have interpreted are there, but we've never been to prepare for another round of drilling, maybe later on in the year. So I would say in the next couple of months, hopefully we can get them to update that. But I appreciate your question. Right, where? No. Sorry. Okay, quick question there. Have there been any discussions with DSO majors regarding DSO JV? There have been no discussions yet. However, that doesn't mean we're not talking to people, mainly in Australia, on the projects. But again, we need to get that next level of confidence in the project. So essentially, we need an MRE, an initial resource, to really, then people will go, well, actually, a JORC compliant mineral resource, that's acceptable. Not acceptable is probably not the word. That's a real strong ammunition, rather than me sitting here saying, look, guys, I think it's really good, and look at all those nice holes, and look at the nice geology. I get an independent resource geologist to provide a JORC compliant resource, then I can still say that as well for the remainder of the area, but I have that as a sort of, a major major tool to move forward with. So definitely talking to people. As I said earlier, we're looking at all options. Hopefully that's answered your question. Okay, shipping generating revenue from DSO. That's, it doesn't happen overnight. We got, I think we are in a bit too early stage to be even contemplating that. As I say, we're looking at options, but all these things take a bit of time. And you've got to remember as well, at the moment, especially someone like Western Australia, the amount of work going on is unbelievable. So getting the right people to help us, to consult for us, to do the sort of work, sometimes we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. A little bit like some of the assay work recently, frustrating, but I'd rather wait a little bit longer to get it done properly than to rush through a job with someone or a team that might not be proficient enough for what we desire. So I think it's a little bit early. So there's a second here. The Elizabeth Hill tailings, are you in position to monetize these tailings yourself or in JV? And if so, when? Okay, again, the tailings, as I said earlier, we're still at a phase of due diligence. We don't know yet exactly if this project will be a viable economic project. As and when we do, that'll give us be in a position to then talk to the current owners of the tailings, because as you must recall, we do not own them. They were not part of the initial acquisition. They were already owned by another party when we acquired the mining lease. However, we are, again, I'd like to think that we're being sensible with the funds, that we're spending some money on due diligence in the right way with the expectation that this will become a viable operation. And actually, I had a call this morning with our metallurgist in Perth, Evan, who's fantastic and really knows his stuff, and really positive. So we'll just keep working on it. Might take a bit longer than we all hoped, but again, laboratory holdups, timings, ongoing. All right, there's a very technical one. Are you targeting Bogleda iron formation as a surrounding Wangara rhyolite? Seems less like the host iron ore. Okay, without going too much technical detail, yes, we're obviously targeting the iron formation. We have already drilled it out essentially at the main target, the extension of the Sirius prospect. However, we are still testing other areas close to that might still have, repeat or other mineralization. So not ruled out, but we are. The focus is on the high grade formations at this stage in the game. Okay, the BIF ridges appear to follow the fault lines and faults. The ridges actually, the ridges are basically they're all. The ridges are like a set of beds. If you take if you got a layer cake of I keep thinking Battenberg, but it's not Battenberg. It's like a green and like in our presentation, a red and a green and a red and a green, and then you slice them at an angle through. You can see where the iron ore being harder than the dolerite that sits in the formation with it, therefore is dominant in the topography. So it sticks out as ridges. Because it all then angles down slightly, dipping down about 20 degrees to the south. So they sort of come out, and each ridge is basically representation of a different iron ore bed within the larger formation. Okay, and therefore what we now understand is that you can follow those beds for several kilometers, and that's what we've been doing. Well, we haven't done enough for several. We've done a couple of kilometers on Ridge E and Ridge C mainly, but we're looking at carrying that on because again, Hancock we've covered maybe 30%, not even of the tenement area. So that's ongoing. And structures within faults. There are a couple of faults, but they're mainly more north-south. So they're sometimes dislodging the ridges, the beds, but we're getting a handle on those, so we know where to jump. So if a bed hits a fault, we then move maybe north 50, 100 meters, and then carry on our exploration, our hunting for it. Hope that helps. Okay, are the EH tailing negotiations still under the 45-day extension announced in the prior RNS? And will the market be informed upon this extension deadline within the week? Look, there's no negotiations at the moment. I think, again, we are doing a due diligence on the project, on the tailings. We have not entered into negotiations because we don't know yet if the tailings will prove an economic opportunity for us and for the current owners. Very much, we are working under an extension period. The current holders are aware of that, and they are also aware of the difficulty in getting lab time and everything else. So we will keep the market informed, of course, and make sure as and when a decision is made that a deal potentially will be struck, but we're not in that position at the moment. And I hope that sort of clarifies that. I've lost I can't scroll down at the moment, weirdly. Okay. Did you mention there are plans to commence drilling at EH within days to weeks? Sorry, yeah, I did mention that part of on the mining lease, we do have a POW for drilling and trenching. I'm not sure if you recall in the presentation, we showed you with the 3D sort of model of the ore body at Elizabeth Hill. We're very keen to put 4 or 5 almost twin drill holes into the ore body to both test the ore body itself, extensions to the ore body, but also the halo around it, because we feel there's possibly areas that were not properly tested outside the core of the silver deposit that we've seen in old documentation and old reports. So we want to test those. Yeah, so we have, again, the funds are there. The core boxes are pretty much there. The core area is ready. We just need a drill rig. And we are, again, between ourselves and the team in Perth and some of our consultants are working with us, everyone's knocking on everyone's door, and we're hoping as soon as possible to have a core rig. We want to do core as well. Very important to get that visibility, but get that information from drill core. So again, working hard to get that done. Now, I hope that again.
Say, Bill, the reason you can't scroll down is that you've answered all the questions that have come through. So thank you very much.
Sorry, there's one more I can see. Share consolidation on the horizon. To be honest, I can't comment on that, but there's been no discussion or thought to that at the moment. To be quite honest, our focus last few months and for the next few months is to really drive these projects forward, to really be cost efficient with the funds we still have, and we still got some solid funds to be able to do the work I've been talking about, and really start getting these projects really out on the map, and as I say, maybe adding another one into the mix in the not too distant future.
Bill, that's fantastic, and yeah, you've been very efficient with the questions there, so thank you very much. You've answered every single one we've had through, so that's greatly appreciated. I'm sure the investors appreciate it as well. If there are any further questions that do come through, you will have that ability to review them. But Bill, perhaps I could just ask you for a few words just to wrap up before we redirect investors to give you some feedback.
Yeah, sure. Look, I appreciate everyone's time today, depending which time zone you're in as well. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've tried to do it a little bit differently, show you a bit more interactive, a couple of the old videos, a couple of our just sort of work in progress, really, some thoughts on data we've got, like for the Elizabeth Hill ore body, that's based on historic data. Very excited to get on the ground finally and really get into it. As I say, I mentioned, I think earlier, we're getting some water samples tested so that hopefully we can start getting back underground, get back in that old mine, see what's there. And I hear some incredible stories about when it was just as it was closing down, the guys were standing on silver on the bottom drive 102. The floor of the drive was still, there was silver in it. I mean, it's very exciting, and it's what I suppose exploration is about. The iron ore, I think, not to blow our own horn, but I think we've done fantastic things in a very short space of time. There are projects, there are areas that possibly have been overlooked, but again, you've got to, if you put it in context, 5-10 years ago, even 3-4 years ago, smaller potential projects were not really considered viable, whereas today you look at companies like Phoenix, Strike, Resources, fantastic. They're doing really well. Great role model in a way for us, and it shows that you don't need multi-billion-dollar pockets and these incredible railways or anything else to actually become a producer of iron ore, which is very exciting as well. And I think, to be honest, who'd have thought when Alien announced they picked up the initial percentages on these two projects that we would be in this position today. And Mexico, look, I'm really excited. It's excuse me, it's quite hard to convey that we're not. I'm personally, Donovan, the Capstone guys were great. They had lots of good ideas. They did loads of work, but maybe they're just not in it. They're obviously not in it long term now. But I think we benefited from the work they've done, from obviously the information they've generated. I'm actually very excited that we've got that back in the fold. And I think importantly, in an exploration world, if you look at Donovan 2, for example, there was nothing there. There's a bit of geochemistry, a little bit of geochemistry, a few samples from Los Alamos, the old shaft, the old pit, water well, whatever you want to call it. Some good geophysics, but there hadn't been a single drill hole. And now we're in a position, we've got some drilling, but more importantly, these often deposits and significant ore bodies, they're not found by the first operator. Sometimes they're not found by the second or the third. But it's so I'm not put off at all, and I hope the investors out there still have faith in us to keep to drive it forward in the right direction. And again, San Celso and Los Campos, they're great projects, and I just we are doing what we can through all the correct channels, and it does take time. And it is frustrating. And let's not forget, there's been an awful pandemic where so many people have suffered. And I think we're still in a really good position, a very fortunate position as a company. I'm really looking forward to the next few months and to sharing it all with you all.
Bill, that's absolutely fantastic. Thanks again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close the session? You should be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and it will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Alien Metals Limited, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That concludes today's session.